right, let's move forward with our town council work session. Sorry about the few minutes delay. We just came out of our finance audit committee. We started at 6 and there's a lot of questions, a lot of millions of dollars to deal with. Tonight's Monday night, November 19, 2018. And we'll start off with Front Royal Volunteer Fire Department request for financial assistance on utility account, town manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have received a letter from the Front Royal Volunteer Fire Department requesting assistance on their utility bill. So basically, I'm going to give them the platform to address council on their request. Junior?
Would you like to come up to the podium? Sure.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Junior Kisner. I'm the president of the Front Royal Volunteer Fire Department. And we just wanted to approach the council, see if we could get some assistance with our utilities. I was always between $2,500 and $3,000 a month. And we're in pretty financial straits right now. But we get a little over $200,000 from the county appropriations, and it takes over $500,000 to operate our station in a year. So, but between the carnival lot and the fire and the building itself, and it's right around $3,000 a month. Excuse me. We're getting ready to buy a new rescue squad. The one we got is a 1999, almost 20 years old. That we usually spend about $60,000 to $70,000 a year in repairs, so we need to replace that. We got an engine that's got almost 100,000 miles on it. The only engine we got now that we need to replace also. And just not enough money at the end of the month. And so we appreciate any help we can get. Mike, I don't know where you or Ronnie have anything to add?
Well, we just want to point out that, we're going to be spending $1.6 to $1.7 million to change out the equipment we currently have, which affects the ISO rating and everything for town. So we're trying to do our best to keep up, give the best equipment for everybody to, so we can function as a fire department.
Yeah, we do. We really need that. Our engine is the only one we have, and like Junior says, 100,000 miles on it, and it's costing us quite a bit of money every month to keep it up. And this rescue squad, the rescue squad needs to be replaced. And the reason we're trying to replace that first is because it's the body and it's in pretty bad shape. And we're trying to work with the vendors when we buy this piece, see how much they will glue the engine into and see what we can save on that to buy two at one time. So that's where we're going with $1.56 million.
And we do, and we have a bingo program that we raise money with, and also we rent the upstairs, and we still have a carnival every year, but still, still we don't make that much off that stuff anymore.
We're running a lot more calls. I mean, the call volume is probably 100% more than it was 10 years ago. Well, the town's getting larger, and we just run more calls.
I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
BJ, what rate, what rate, do you know what rate we're charged the fire department?
In-town rates.
Yeah, I know it's in-town rates, but
It's
what?
same as all residential. It's for electric or?
Yeah, it's just electric, yeah.
The,
We give water, we don't charge for water.
Correct.
This is water inside, we do, don't we? I think it's metered now.
No, the water inside is not
In the entire
metered.
building?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. The fire department does
Meters,
not pay for
because
water.
we needed to know how much water we were losing
I see.
in our I&I.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Kisner, in regards to the electrical, since this is a funded operation by the county, have you all gone to the county and requested more funding?
We have. We've approached him about giving us some. The rescue squad is a specialized piece of equipment.
Well, I understand that.
And we've approached him about assisting us with that, but we don't have an answer yet.
Okay, the reason I'm saying this, in 1998 when we made this agreement, we made the agreement that they would take care of all the finances of the fire department, period. all of them, whatever number they are, 8, I guess, I don't know. And we have pretty much stuck to our guns on that up until this point. The library wanted money, and we refused to give them money due to the fact that it's supposed to be funded by the county. And we're already paying 50% of it already through our town taxes that we pay to the county. And so I know where you're hurting, and I know it is, but I cannot myself take more money from our town coffers after we're already paying 50% of the cost to begin with, and then start paying more money out of our coffers from the town. It's a county function, and the county should be the one funding the bill.
I certainly understand that, and being an employee of the Parks and Rec Department, I do remember when all that happened and went down, and I hear you and understand where you're coming from, but, you
But I
know.
understand where you're coming from too.
Yeah,
Again, I mean, you gotta look at our kind of picture as well.
sure.
I mean, you're not part of the town, you theoretically county function. So if we start funding fire department, next time it'll be something else, and next time it'll be something else, somebody. So I'm not in favor of beginning to fund any of these at this point. And if you get to the point down the road that we are forced to do it to keep it in operational functioning, I would maybe consider it. But as of right now, I'm not in favor of funding anything that the county's already funded, and we're paying 50% of that funding already. Myself, that's not.
Jake?
I have some more questions I'll follow up with.
Okay. John?
I don't have any questions right now.
Mr. Bud?
So will this be budgeted for next year?
No,
Excuse me.
they're asking for a different rate. That'll.
Just any kind of assistance we can get at all, it's just, right now, our operating budget's down to about $16,000. It's a public safety item, and I know,
Well, what kind of dollar figure are you asking?
well, we're asking for any assistance that we can get just on the
$1
utilities.
would be efficient.
That's better than what we get now.
I mean,
I know you are.
I think they're asking for a different rate.
Well, we're asking for
understand that.
anything.
Well, yeah, that, but basically.
Because they
that's
didn't
what-
understand what rate they had before.
Sure.
Because that was just clarified a few minutes ago.
BJ, everybody's on that same rate?
For the
Residential,
commercial?
commercial?
Yes, well, no, residential is separate from commercial. The fire department is under commercial.
From commercial.
Yes, and
So they
it's
are
demand
meter.
it's tiered.
Demand meter?
I'm sorry?
Demand meter?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Gentlemen, y'all want to think about it for a week and talk about it next work session? Because that's, I know Jake has a lot of questions. And it's kind of really, we're all town citizens, and that used to be our fire department. We know our neighbors, we know the dependency that we rely on you guys, but we also have 15,000 other citizens that could come in here and ask for a lower rate too.
Absolutely.
You know, and maybe there's something that we can find out, I don't know, if there's any grants coming through the town, through the Electric Joe, or maybe,
You know,
I know we have their scholarships, but
Right, we looked, we actually did try to pursue something for the Heritage Society.
Yeah.
We weren't able to find anything relevant for the Heritage Society, and I don't know about the volunteer fire department. But-
Junior, at this time, we're gonna have to stay where we're at this time.
Okay.
But we're gonna meet again, another work session, we'll gather some more information, whatever Jake, whatever information you need to get with BJ, to get those figures or whatever, and John, if you have any questions, next kind of be prepared for that, okay?
Thanks for y'all's time, and we appreciate anything that,
Absolutely, Junior.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Kind of tough when you ask a question like that to get a little help, but see what we can do. All right, let's go with number 2, ordinance amendment request from David Downs, exempt number 14 to 16 Chester Street from the off-street parking requirements of the town code. Director of Planning and Zoning.
Right here.
Sorry, Dave. Sorry, no. We're in a work session. That's okay.
Just need a minute to set up here.
Yeah. Just be prepared in case the council has questions.
It's down on the bottom of the PowerPoint.
This?
On the bottom. Yep, just start from the beginning.
Jeremy, where are you going to start? Are you going to start somewhere like when all this started, or going to give us a summary of some history, or what you going to give us?
Just a few slides and just a brief summary of the request. So we have a process in the town where citizens, businesses can submit an application to go through a review of a town ordinance to consider changes to that ordinance. In this particular request, David Downs of Beer Museum has made a request to exempt off-street parking for his business. Here's the property. Chester Street Beer Museum and the adjacent office building owned by Mr. Downs. Brief background, Mr. Downs came into the town for the Beer Museum on, got approval of that on March 17th, 2016. And then at that time, he was allowed to go in there without having to meet the quantity requirements for new uses of the town code because of an exemption, particularly 175, 127, which basically allows for existing businesses to continue to be reused for future businesses without having to add parking. But it does require that they maintain the parking that they have. So they have to maintain that as well as keep that in use. Mr. Downs came in later, and then he applied for a fence permit, and that was originally denied because he was going to remove the rear parking area for a permanent beer garden. And that would be in conflict with 175, 127, which says you have to maintain your existing parking. I would also point out that there is a separate exemption in the town code for off-street parking that deals with properties on East Main Street and behind the courthouse. So that particular exemption, which I believe Mr. Downs wants to be added to, does not require maintenance of any parking. You can certainly have your own parking, which many businesses on Main Street do, and some of them don't. But there's no requirement for off-street parking at all. And so that brings us to the applicant's request, an exemption for his property. The Planning Commission prepared 3 possible draft options, and those are in your packet. They did not recommend any of those at their public hearing that they held. There was a motion made, and that motion failed for adoption of option 1. To go over those real quick, the first option, the draft was to basically add in Lower Virginia, from Chester Street from Lower Virginia Hill to East Main Street, in with the exemption under 148-870A-17, which would exempt all parking requirements for those uses along that stretch of the road. So that'd be adding in that area to, and treating them like we do the businesses on East Main Street. And the idea that that was originally created was because the town was adding in public parking, and in that, it was determined that those properties in that area would not have to meet that requirement. The second draft was similar to the first, except instead of being an automatic by right, they would have to get approval by town council through a special use permit. This was discussed in work session with the planning commission, and then in discussion during the work sessions, the planning commissions were in favor were leaning towards that as a possibility, but the applicant, prior to the public hearing, said that that was not something he was interested in pursuing, so the planning commission did not recommend that.
Could you explain that special use permit, please?
A special use permit, that would be a case-by-case review, and so it would eliminate a problem of setting a precedent, because town council can deny or approve those as they see fit based on the circumstances.
Is this not similar to what we're doing as a special use permit? Isn't this the only property that is not required? I'm looking at the other buildings coming around Chester. Are these the only last two houses that would be affected by that change of ordinance? Those changes in-
Well, it would affect everything on Chester Street from Lower Virginia Hale to East Main Street under the
Okay,
first draft.
what I'm asking is, what is left to be affected? Just his? Or is the house across from him already in that?
The only properties that are in the current exemption of 148-870-817, which exempts, doesn't require you to maintain any parking, the only ones that are in that are the ones that are actually physically fronting on Main Street.
Okay, gotcha.
So those ones that are not fronting, such as those on Chester Street, are treated the same as all the other businesses in town. So they do qualify for the exemption under 175-127, which says you can use an existing business property and reuse that. But you have to maintain the parking you have, which is, I guess, the issue with Mr. Downs, in that he wants to eliminate the rear parking and use it as a permanent beer garden.
David Solik was at one of our meetings and made comment that his mother, I guess, owns part of those two right next to Mr. Downs' two buildings. And he also said they're built on the entire property.
So they have no
So they
parking.
have no parking, so how do they, they're facing Chester, so how do they, what do we use for them?
Well, that would be 175-127. They have no parking, so they would have to maintain no parking. So it just says you have to maintain what you have. You don't have to add what new uses are required to do. You just can't make the situation worse.
How many parking spaces are behind those two lots? Pre-fence, how many parking spaces were there?
I'm not positive because it's sort of laid out odd, but you probably can get about a dozen back there.
Following up on Jake's question, there's two houses, are both of them the beer museum or just one?
Just one, the one on the end there. It's 16 Chester Street.
All right, the next one to him, how many, I mean, I'm looking at two different properties. How many parking requirements is required for the business office? I guess would be his lawyer office? I'm like, that's okay, take your time. I'm sorry for so many questions, but I've been asked these questions, and I just want to make sure I get the answers.
That's what you're going for?
Thanks, Jake.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at you, Jake.
Perfect.
Take Todd's job, quit Valley Health.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out that.
There you go. Okay, number 14, is that 14 or whatever that is, 12, 14? Okay, that is a office,
Yeah, office.
and it's required, how many parking spaces?
One per 300 square feet of office use.
And the one next door, the beer museum.
That would be the same, one per 300.
just on his, that one part, lot number.
Again, but the quantity requirements don't apply because it's an
Right.
existing use. So the code there in that regard just says you have to maintain the parking area that you have.
How about number 12? What's the requirements there?
None,
If they have none,
they have none.
they're required to.
Well, I
Maintain
haven't been
none.
approached- I was approached by the couple that are considering like a bed and breakfast, and they asked me specifically about parking for them.
Now, there's parking around them, and the town maintains all the public parking. It's an expensive endeavor. But we have the street parking, we have parking that's available on the gazebo and then on the Payton Street parking lot, so they can use that, but they wouldn't be required to have any parking if they don't have any now.
I just want to make sure that we're playing level field. 'Cause we got a huge town parking lot that's, I don't know what the statistics are that are being used. I heard 27%. Sometimes you go down on Saturday night, Friday night, and they're just about all full. But, I don't know, go ahead, Jeremy.
The planning commission's interested in, and they're currently working on the comprehensive plan, and they're interested in updating the study that the regional commission did a little over a year ago. Circumstances have changed a lot since then with the emergence of new businesses wanting to come downtown, and that report showed that we had adequate parking today, but we feel that that's changed dramatically. The planning commission is not inclined to start giving away parking that we have at this time until there was a better plan for parking in the downtown area.
All right, tonight, we're being asked,
Who parks behind 16 and 14 now?
That is the parking for the Beer Museum primarily, but also the law office and the Beer Museum. They have a gate there. They close that when they're not open for business, and they open it when they are open for business.
But is there parking lot now, essentially?
It's a private parking lot.
Private parking?
Who's parking? Is that on 16, that's on the north side of the Beer Museum? Or 16, I'm sorry.
those little parking spaces next to it.
These right here.
Yes.
That's interesting because his property line actually goes a few feet into that, so it's joint owned by the town and the applicant.
Okay.
Those parking spaces are not in question.
Well, that's what people would use.
No, the thing that he would like to eliminate is the parking in the rear. Actually, that's his primary parking is on the north side, I think, for his customers.
Has anyone actually done a street study, traffic? I was down there on several occasions at Virginia Hales, that corner. I happened to be down there doing the leaf peepers, or what you call them, Mayor, and almost got hit. Because it is very narrow coming up through there. Is the street width any different to the Main Street? Or is it all the same?
Should be the same, Gene, shouldn't they? You should know that. Chester and
I think they're the same, but I have to be honest with you, it's
maybe,
not.
I mean, I know they have parking on one side, Main Street has parking on one side, and two cars can traverse tightly,
It's tight.
but.
Very tight.
But they can traverse.
Because I was almost hit by out-of-towner at that corner. I was headed south.
So Jeremy, what is council being actually asked? Is it to take it before a public hearing, to get the public's input, and I'll let you guys answer some questions in a minute. I'm just trying to figure out what direction we need to go with this, whether or not we go to a public hearing to grant or not grant.
Right, the applicants pay the application fee, so it should be scheduled for an upcoming public hearing, get public input, and make a decision on it. Planning Commission did not recommend any of the options. I think the special use permit options viable, if it's something that the applicant would be interested in pursuing. Of course, the negative there for him is that doesn't end the process for him. He would still, after, if it were to get approved, still have to come through and get approval by the town.
Sure, we have to go through that public hearing process, so. Gene, you finished on your
Yes, sir.
presentation?
Unless you have
Stay right there, please.
No, my issue is, you know, if it calls for, we have to have a public hearing. Because it's applications there, and the plan commission turns it down. It's gotta come back to us, either a public hearing on the request originally, or possibly the special use permit, which he has not asked for yet. So, to me, it's gotta go back to
Sure,
the public
okay.
hearing,
Yeah, that's
just
fine,
as
no
if
problem.
as it went to the planning commission, so. To me, just bring it back to the town council as a public hearing, and, you know, sign it at that.
Jake?
I still got another question.
Yeah, sure, we're running around the corner.
Okay, that joint parking there on that side right there of the Pier Museum, how many spots are there? Do I count 5?
I seem to think 6 from memory, but I'm not certain. Let's go check.
And how many is he required to have in the fenced-in area?
1, 2, 3, 4. 5 or 6.
And how many is he required to have within the fenced area?
Whatever's there.
He's required to have 1 road back here.
You know,
He's required what?
He's got it lined off, because I had walked it. I don't know how many that is.
Well, he's required one for every 300 square feet, or is that?
He's not, is he? Just, he's
That's
just
only if
required
it's a
to
new
use it.
use, so he's just required to maintain what's back there now.
I guess,
The
you know,
number's really not that important.
So how many is he required to have?
I looked at it one time, it was probably like 15 or so, but he doesn't have enough to meet that requirement.
he has about 5 on his property, and he would use public right away for the additional. Is that correct?
I thought did we make a amendment to our ordinance that anything that's pre-existing, that they didn't have to come up with any more parking than they already had originally? Now, I don't know how many was there originally, but it looks to me like, I don't think you can get 12 parking slots back there when I looked at it.
You can't. That's the requirements if you were to do a new
Yeah,
business.
right, something,
But in tonight's,
but it's
with
pre-existing.
it going through the
so-
planning, when it went through the planning, that now requires us to go to a public hearing.
I understand, what I'm saying is, if it was required 7 when that business or whatever was there prior, then I don't think by our own code we can require him to have more than the 7
We can't.
in order.
He wants to get rid of
We
those
have
7.
said, I know, because we have said that any building is pre-existing, and they had 10 parking spots, even though they needed 15, they can still get the permit with the 10. Because you can't make more parking. You got a lot so big, it's only so big, and you can't make more parking.
And that exemption's worked great for allowing people to reuse properties.
Well, theoretically, the question that I'm seeing here is the fact that the request is that do away with all his parking on his property and then go into our local parking that our merchants are supposed to use to shop on Main Street. So when that's done, that takes anywhere from, 5 to 30, I don't know. I don't know how many people goes there in the evening or at night, I
It
don't know.
varies.
Very well, I'm sure, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how many I did.
But we don't know how many goes into the other ones either, you know,
No, I
we have
know,
to do
yeah.
here.
So, you know,
But I
think-
guess taking it to the public hearing would give the public the opportunity, because we have some folks here tonight that would, you know, like to come, I'm sure, to come to the public hearing, so. Jake, you got any problem moving this to a public hearing?
Sure.
John,
We can bring it forward next week.
Gillespie? Bill? Advertise?
Yeah, it'll be December 10th,
Sure.
if we get it in the paper tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you guys for showing up. All right, let's move on to Heptad LLC, request for 1-year extension to Smith Development Plan, Director of Planning. And just to give everybody a little quick glimpse, we've done this in the past. Hopefully maybe within this year, he can sell the property and they'll develop it, build houses and make everybody money. Jeremy, you want to give us a brief?
Well, that covers a lot of it.
Yeah.
It's
a renewal. So,
If you're not familiar though with Heptad, it's about 100 acres or less off Leech Run Parkway here in the red. And the western side of it is residential. So it's here, and then on the other side, that little triangle area is 9 acres of commercial. It's a planned development. It's a rather dense development for the town. It's approved for up to 5.12 units per acre, depending on how the development plan is ultimately laid out. 450 dwelling units is maximum. So it's a mixture of, as you see here, townhouses, multifamily, single-family units, and commercial. A lot of good things in it as far as connectivity with Westminster. There's proffers to the town. There's a large amount of open space, 44%. It does have narrower streets than we're used to. That was approved originally. And of course, like I said, cash proffers towards the town that would help go towards Leech Run Parkway and also to Warren County Schools. So these are all basically the characteristics of the project in a nutshell. The code requires that they come in after the master plan approval, this is one page of that image. And it says they have to come back in and get an engineered subdivision plan approved within a year. And of course, it's been a while. 2012 was when the rezoning was originally approved. The housing market had busted. It wasn't very strong at that time. It's come back. And of course, the applicant, I believe, previously was waiting on Leech Run Parkway to be constructed. And that's constructed now. But now they're trying to find somebody to buy and develop it. I believe it's being advertised nationally. Really hope something happens to it soon here, so we can get going with the project. But until then, I don't oppose a one-year extension.
so basically, they just need a 1-year extension, Joe?
Yes.
Basically, I mean, we have renewed it before, and if it elapses, then we got to start all over.
Yep.
4,000 hours down the drain. Anybody have any problems with renewing it?
No. Is there state law says that you've got to do this so many times?
It's only in our code that says that, state law says you can prescribe the validity of the plan as determined appropriate for the scale of the project. Actually, the state code says you have to be able to vest a plan for at least 5 years. So, ours is a little bit in conflict with that.
That's what I'm saying.
Less
I
than
mean,
that.
is there a state law that we're in conflict with if we keep moving it forward?
No, I don't
That's
believe
right
so.
over there. I see
Shouldn't
what
be.
you said. I know that there's a lot of things, we only have 90 days to do this and 90 days to do that. On our end, then we can extend for years and years and years before it's,
Theoretically, the other way could happen too. If the applicant just agrees
Yeah, I
to
understand.
extend the application process, that could theoretically go on indefinitely as well. But, unless we have a problem with it, I think it'd be to the advantage to grant the extension, see if it develops. I wouldn't be surprised though, whoever buys it wants to come back in and revise the plan anyway.
I don't know.
But we'll cross that bridge. Joe, put it on the agenda. Thank you. All right, moving ahead. Thank you, Jeremy. I got straight there, BJ. Okay. Proposed advertising for invitation for bid pursuant to Virginia Code 15.2-2102 and 15.2-2103 for new non-exclusive franchises for cable television systems and for the fiber optic communications system. Town manager, 10 minutes.
Doug?
Okay.
That was quick, huh?
Really, there's two businesses or companies the town is in the process of negotiating with, and we want to get the town council's blessing to continue. Both the existing franchise agreements have expired. One is with Comcast and one is with Shintel. The one with Comcast, initially what staff would like to see is a town-wide franchise agreement. And that's for the broadband or internet service. What state law, both under state constitution and state statute says is that if a franchise agreement for 5 years or more is to be put into place, which is what Comcast would want, you've got to put it out for public bids. What we're doing is we're going to put it out for bids. Most likely, Comcast is only going to be the only bidder. We don't know that, but from what we've seen, it's probably the only company out there that's going to want to offer the service. With Shintel, they provide telecommunication services. They've got what's called dark fiber in place. Dark fiber means the physical fiber has already been laid, but it's not been energized. They had to cut it off because the franchise agreement expired. The town would like to see that fiber energized. We've got fiber running up to the water treatment plant with the new police department radio system. That's where it's going to be broadcast from, because we get good coverage for the police radios from up there since it's up high. And we've talked to Shintel, and they're willing to give us a shorter term franchise agreement so we can put out bids for a longer franchise agreement. There may be somebody else besides Shintel that would give us a good deal, but they're willing to enter into a 2-year franchise agreement so we can get that radio system up and running. They've also got a couple of shorter term operations that they want to run in town. So if the town council would give us its blessings on those two, one short-term for Shintel and then do the RFP for bids with Comcast for a longer term. But and if somebody else wants to come in town and get us a better deal, these are non-exclusive. So whoever wants to provide service, if we can get a whole bunch of people providing service in town, more power to them.
Okay. John, got any objection? Gillespie? Seelock?
No.
Gene?
I don't have a question. I do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Number one is, you say we are mandatory to put out the bids?
If it's going to be 5 years or more.
5 years or more. How long has this thing been in the rear already, this contract?
Comcast, it's been I believe it's been a few months. What Comcast told us that they had sent us a letter of interest to renew, which would have triggered a renewal. We said we don't recall seeing anything. Send it to us. While we waited a few months for it, and they finally sent us something, and their letter of renewal was dated 10 years ago.
Anything else, Gene?
No, not at this point.
Okay. Well, in between time we...
So that was the delay.
Okay.
We were waiting for them to produce proof.
I knew it was delayed. I was just wondering
That was the
how long. I
proof.
didn't think it was that long.
Yeah, that was the proof.
Jake, move forward.
I think I've asked this question before, but why do we have to sign franchise agreements if they're non-exclusive?
They, in order to use our poles, our right-of-ways, if they're overhead, they use our poles. If they're underground, they have to basically dig up our streets, or we dig up our streets to allow it. We want money for that because they can tear up our property. So we want money for that, and we want a franchise agreement so that we dictate the terms of what's gonna be done.
Gene?
Are they still paying the pole fee?
Yes, that's something different. Whole attachment fees are something different.
That's entirely opposite from the contract.
Yes.
Anyone else?
And we
Joe,
get
move
good
forward.
revenue for that, too.
Joe, move forward.
Thank you.
All right, purchase and financing of a refuse truck. Director of Finance, PJ.
Yes, sir.
I guess this is gonna mirror the last one that we purchased.
Yes, with the exception that price is relatively the same for the truck. The only difference being is that we're seeking outside funding for this one versus internal funding. So VML Vaco did put this out to bid for us. Got a rate of 3.85% for 5 years, with payments in the amount of $39,239.14. The money has been budgeted in the fiscal year 19 budget for this payment, and we're going to include it in future budgets as well. So we're seeking council's approval to purchase the vehicle and finance it.
Refuge department budget strong enough to handle it?
Yes, one refuse truck it is.
Gene?
How long has it been since, how old was the truck we replaced? I know they're all pretty old. I know we just replaced the one last year.
14 years, Gene?
Robert, yeah.
What was the question?
How old's the truck we're replacing?
2001.
Okay.
When we took the one, we bought the recycling and put it into the fleet.
That's
For
correct.
the actual garbage.
Yes.
So that'll give us fairly, how many other trucks do we have? 4?
I think there's one other one that needs to be replaced, but we're holding off on that one at this point.
Joe?
Yeah, there's actually two trash trucks that need to be replaced. I actually did have a conversation with Don Patters about the necessity of replacing this truck this year, and he was pretty adamant that this one truck, it was almost operation critical to get this one truck replaced, because we were debating on deferring it another year, but unfortunately, there's no way we can
So that's the one that runs from Front Royal to Bentonville?
that I'm unsure on the full.
Oh, okay, yeah, we need to make sure we have some safe vehicles so we can put them out on the road.
Are we getting rid of those great big old trucks that are
Yeah,
always overloaded when you load?
oh, I don't know about that from the
What trucks are we, which one we're referring to? And I know those big ones can't even go down half the streets and got low power lines.
I'm not familiar with the truck, thanks to Robbie there.
Sorry, that's not a big
Front
deal.
end loaders?
They'll get with you tomorrow.
I know if it's a 2001, it needs to be replaced.
But you can buy it cheap,
Oh, yeah.
as long as you do it.
We're
We're
running
running,
cheap when I have them, but not that cheap.
we'll buy for $1 and tow it over to the Winchester, yeah. Bill, you want in on it?
I don't have room for it.
All right, move forward, Joe.
Well, I have a couple questions.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jake. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it
That's
does.
got to go to the council.
Yes, yes.
I was asking Joe some of these questions afterwards too, like wondering if we're still having concerns about the future of our program for the trash services. And I know we just bought a truck, and we're depreciating that. Now we're gonna turn around and buy another truck, and as I've read in the weekly reports, we're still struggling with the service level for the trash services. And I think I was pretty vocal last time through about are we in the, should we be doing this business? Should we be looking for somebody else to do this business? And I just kind of wanted that resurrected of a little bit more of a conversation before we drop off and spend another $200,000 on trash services, because I don't think that the program has made it over that hump since the last time we discussed this. And now we're going to invest another $200,000 into it. And the more we invest into it, the more we're committed to it.
Or we're committed to serving our citizens. I think that's what council came to the conclusion at the last meeting.
Yeah, but we didn't make that commitment at any cost.
Well, we never said
commitment,
any
but
cost,
Not
but-
at any cost.
We're not gonna find, and I'm just
So we
remembering.
raised the prices on our trash services to cover those
75
costs.
cents.
And then if we have to raise them again to provide that service, and then we invest another $200,000 in a truck, and we could be back in that boat to raise them again. And so all I'm asking is that I think that it might be worth looking at a little bit.
Joe?
I think
Yeah, I'm aware of the labor situation that we're dealing with. I'm hoping that I can find a resolution to that. But you're right. I think it is something we still need to entertain. But even if the town chose to get out of the solid waste business, it was something that would probably take a 2 to 3 year process. With that in mind, I did have a long, hard discussion with Don McTathers, manager of Fleet. If there was any way that we could defer this vehicle 1 more year, he was pretty adamant that the condition of the vehicle that's got to be replaced needs to be replaced. We actually were slated to do 2 this year, and that's why I decided to kick back and only do 1, for the simple fact of that I think that this is probably something we may need to think about down the road again. But the simple thing is to remember is once we start looking at it again, we will never get out of the solid waste business completely because we still have to support Main Street. We have to support the festivals. We have to support the farm operations. So
The only thing we were going to get rid of was residential.
no, what we've done is we've stopped
No, that's
taking
what we were-
commercial.
No, that's what we were going to only get rid of to the outsource.
I think what Jake's saying is, we all know in our reports that we're having personnel problems manning it. Because I've seen staff pulled from everywhere to man the waste trucks. On top of that, I think it's time for us to revisit Gene's offer, what, 2 years ago? I think it's time for us to start considering other companies to supply this service. Because like Jake said, it's not going to get any better. I understand what we got to do presently to maintain, but it's time to revisit.
And I'm not disagreeing with you there, Bill. I do
We
think
got a
that-
lot of irons in the fire, and this is another one, but it's not getting any better, that's what I'm saying.
They're getting it picked up right now. Gillespie?
With that presentation, I think, Judge, you gave us last year on that,
We
I
have to go after
think the average bill was gonna go up about $50.
Actually, when we presented that, we made perfect clear, I thought to council, that we were going to maintain rates for 3 years, which we have.
Yeah, maintaining our rates, but you're talking about the rate increase, had we gone out?
Looking out.
Oh,
If
right.
we
Yeah, if we'd
would've-
gone to the
If we
outside.
would've went to the
Right, we-
outside.
Right, going outsourcing that, yes, it will burden the citizens possibly several dollars more a month.
Yeah.
Because we've taken a look, I've recently looked at Strasburg and the town of Woodstock. They're basically in that same type of situation, so I don't
We can
rule
talk
out.
about it, Joe, in January, February, we'll bring it back and rehash and talk about stuff, but we definitely need a truck, and we need to get that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
am.
but if you place the order, you're committing ourselves more
Well,
to
we
it.
need a truck. Because
We
it's
have
gonna
a
take-
truck.
We just don't outsource the next day. It'll take a couple of years for us to even outsource, so we're gonna need that truck. And that truck can be refurbished to something else.
Which one, the brand new one?
Yeah,
But we already have a brand new one. It's
yeah.
less than a year old, right? Or a year old? Year old?
That's about a year old.
About a year.
Yeah. My point is that, and
I know what your
I
point is. I
understand.
know what your point is. You don't wanna buy a truck and then outsource. I understand that.
No, I don't want to buy a
But
truck
understand
and
this.
then commit us to
We
not
got 2
outsourcing.
employees that are driving around in the truck that shop foreman that said should come off the road. Now, do we put those employees into more, longer danger? No, absolutely not. What cost? We can resell the truck.
You're afraid that the axle's going to fall apart and go off the street?
Those trucks are owed 1, then the front end loaders. And even we get another truck, we can sell it. It's a commodity that we can sell. Staff is asking, shop is asking for a truck.
Yeah, I mean,
And the money's already in the budget for the truck.
It's a bad time. I mean, it's bad timing.
and that's what I was going to say, like, I don't know if you were just sitting in the same meeting I was, but now we're talking about, spending more money at another interest rate because we don't have the money to fund it, so we're going to go out and get a loan just like we did with the police radios. And at the same time, we're still trying to figure out our own financing for the police station.
But this is
And
waste, this is out of their budget. Their budget has nothing to do with any other budgets.
no, I get, yeah, thank you, I get that. But I'm just saying, just because it's in the budget and staff wants it, to make it the right decision. That's all I'm saying. I'm just one voice, I'm just throwing it out there, that's all.
Me too. I'm just trying to round up a move ahead. I want to do it because of the safety of the drivers that operate them.
So what are you asking us to do?
Buy the truck.
Buy the truck.
So that's what you're telling the
Yep.
town manager to go do?
Yep.
Having been in charge of that, I know what they're going through. If it's a 2001, it's worn out, I can tell you that. And it needs to be replaced, unless we are gonna go down sourcing, then that's a different story. But if it's that old, and those trucks are used every day very heavily, and you got 500,000 moving parts on a tractor, on a dump truck. It's not just pick up and throw them in the back of a dump truck. You got hydraulics, you got all fittings and things, and they break down constantly, because, like I said, I used to be in charge of it, so, But I'm in favor of.
Every
going
single
ahead.
vehicle that's gonna come to us is gonna be need to be replaced. Replace the police cars, replace the maintenance trucks. I mean, Joe hasn't sent anything forward that needs to be replaced. I completely understand that. I'm just asking the questions. that's
Absolutely.
all.
And I'm just letting you know. Because we do have a rolling inventory.
That's what I said, we need to revisit outsourcing.
And we can revisit it next year, once we get everything off our plate. And if we have a brand new truck, we'll sell it. That'd be the case. Maybe whoever's gonna take over front row needs a couple extra trucks.
And it'll take a loss at that, but yeah, you could sell it and lose half the
Safety
value.
of the drivers with the truck that's been recommended to take off the road is very important to me, because I am a CDL driver, been a CDL driver, and when they tell you to take one off the road, it needs to come off.
Yeah, I'm not making an emotional based argument. I'm just saying, you gotta have the money.
Joe, put it on the agenda.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Council discussion, let's go to close. Doug, you got the motion to let John bring us into close, please? Sure.
I have it. Will you email it?
We'll pass it around to everybody, give the press one. Doug, give the press one, please. We actually don't need it, as long as we got one to come in and go out. And we'll take a 5-minute recess after we vote on this, go in.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I move the council convene and go into closed meeting for the following purposes. 1, the discussion concerning a prospective business or industry of the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business's or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community pursuant to section 2.2-3711A5 of the Code of Virginia. And 2, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters, specifically discussion of the proposed resolution with respect to the consideration of legal mechanisms relating to handling debt service related to prior and current budget years, regarding the Economic Development Authority, requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel pursuant to section 2.2-371188 of the Code of Virginia.
Gary?
Yes.
Bill? Yes. Gene? Yes. Jake?
Yes.
Hollis, yes?
Yes.
Let's take 5.
I'll second.
Yeah.
You got second.